York. It is May 24th, 2021 on a Monday. Happy Monday. This is the first RLC video I'm putting out, which is iExec. RLC is the token of iExec. I'll be doing these once a day to give you kind of like where I stand in terms of my investment with RLC. But let's move forward into the disclaimer quick because there's a lot to cover. I'm not a financial advisor, so please don't think that this is any sort of financial advice whatsoever. You all have your own risk profiles. I don't know any of you. Second thing I want to just point out is I would not be risking what I can't afford, and I'm just here trying to give everyone a view in terms of what I'm doing, just for educational purposes. Sitting on the sidelines to learn is also okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to get intraday updates, you can subscribe to the Twitter link below. In that, I actually send out intraday updates in terms of my entry and exit points, and in addition, major market moves. And if you want to subscribe, again, I do one of these a day, and I also do at least one a day for News Cipher and another one for GRT or the Graph, if you're interested in those infrastructure currencies as well. So let's just quickly prime through what is iExec. iExec is a decentral cloud computing environment. Now, what does that mean? Well, most companies initially in the beginning of time, when we started out in data center world, a lot of these servers that were used for back-end computing for applications that companies needed to drive the applications for their company, a lot of that infrastructure was sitting all consolidated into one environment that was hosted by their own company, or they rented the building, but all the actual infrastructure was bought by those companies, big companies, right? As time went on, these companies said, you know what, I don't want to sit here and manage the maintenance of all this stuff. So let's, and that was where that kind of use case started coming out. So Amazon, Microsoft, Google all said, you know what, we're going to build one that everyone can use. It'll be called the cloud. So they built the cloud that companies, all these companies, hundreds and thousands of these companies can rent out and run their applications on them, which was great. And it worked out well. So now companies that use the cloud didn't have to own their own data center anymore. Well, they probably owned a small one, but you know, you get the point. It's not like, you know, if you have a data center and you have, you know, 5,000 servers, maybe now you have 1,000 servers and you rent the rest out. So that's actually a really compelling thing. And I think Amazon and Microsoft will continue to grow, no question about it, just on the cloud case by itself. But now we're moving from these. So Amazon and Microsoft are mostly centralized cloud providers. So basically they have data centers themselves that they stick all of these machines that everyone, all the rest of the world can use. But it's not a decentralized cloud computing platform. And so this is where iExec comes in. So basically, if I want to take my server, let's pretend I have one under my desk, and I want to plug it in and allow the world to use it, they can use it using the iExec framework. So by me plugging it in and letting the rest of the world use the CPU on my server, I'm going to get paid for them using my server. And how are they going to pay me? In RLC. And what are they going to have to do to use my machine? They're going to have to pay me in RLC. And that's how this works. So I will basically take my machinery and rent it out to some random human being who I'll never know. They won't know me and I won't know them. And that's how this works. And they basically, and RLC, iExec manages they manage the full environment and how this all is working. And that environment is called the trusted execution environment. And that's how this is how they provide that service. Anyway, lots of sources up here, but just to a quick background, and then let's go into the markets. iExec is a French-based project launched back in 2017. It's part of Data Cloud, which is a big, giant European Commission-funded project that so they were funded back in 2020, so it was a big deal. In collaboration with Intel, iExec has already been working with Intel on offering AI model marketplaces to allow renting out infrastructure from iExec. So it's fantastic. So we're already starting collaboration with Intel. This collaboration already starting with Google, because in Google's space, instead of like I think in with Intel, they're kind of like promising encryption on the chip. So if you rent out an Intel chip, then with someone who's got an Intel chip, that all of the encryption is encapsulated within the chip. Same thing with Google. They promise the encryption piece of it, but that's done within the within their VM. So lots of different collaborations going on. I'm not worried about marketing from iExec one bit. They do a great job marketing. Another key feature that I like with iExec. Anyway, this is where I stand right now. Now I don't typically go straight in on any particular entry point. I'll do 20% in here and there where I think it makes sense to come into the market or come into the purchase into RLC. I haven't identified anything yet, but I'm starting to get a good idea of where I think I might want to go. So I'm for the amount of money that I have set aside for only the RLC world, I will figure out how I will invest it, and I will let you all know how that will play out. And again, putting all your money on one chip does not make any sense at all. Layer into it. Anyway, so let's move forward. This is an equation which we will go into at some point later, but we're going to go into the markets first. But this is just so everyone understands that typically when you go into your Coinbase and you want to buy RLC, that price that you're about to buy it at is actually the outcome of two underlying components. One is, what is the benchmark Bitcoin doing today, right? If it's going up a lot, then RLC might be going up too. But it depends on this. What is the strength of RLC relative to Bitcoin? These are two tickers that you can easily track. Actually, you can find a lot of clues in these two underlying things that make up the final price of the RLC US dollar pair. So let's go to the markets real quick and run through this. Okay, so we've hit a high in RLC of like 16 and change. We banged down all the way down here to 3. It must have been like crazy. A lot of people probably panicking. A lot of retail outflows in the altcoin market. It's typical for altcoin to do this when there's a lot of fear. Now, as I've said, RLC is made up of two pieces. One is the Bitcoin or the benchmark, and one is the RLC's strength relative to Bitcoin. So let's look at Bitcoin for a sec. And if you've looked at some of my other videos today, I've pointed this out. This is a descending broadening wedge, which is very, very bullish as a pattern. And I've seen it maybe 50 times in the past. And I can tell you right now, this is generally a bullish signal for Bitcoin. We're at 38,000 right now. We broke this trend line here, which is the outer shell of the broadening wedge or the resistance line. We've broken out of it. I expect that we're going to start trekking back up. And we'll talk about where my support points are in another video, but just know that this is a very bullish pattern, right? So bullish is good. So we knocked out one of two of where we think this thing's going. So bullish here. Now let's take a look at RLC strength relative to Bitcoin. Okay, so if we click on that and we take a look, this is actually a pretty decent pattern. And I could actually draw a line. And I can figure out that we might be hitting a spot here where it might be a good buying opportunity. So I look to the strength of any cryptocurrency relative to Bitcoin. And in this case, it's RLC BTC. And I'll find a good entry point here. And I'll probably find one between now and tomorrow's video. But you'll have to subscribe to Twitter to know what I'm thinking if you want to find out. But anyway, that's kind of how this whole approach is. Hope you've learned a little bit something here as we move forward. Remember, if you don't mind, learn this. This is the most important thing you'll probably want to learn because I base all my investments around these two items in its entirety before I determine whether I want to go into RLC or not. Anyway, hope everyone's having a good Monday. We'll catch up tomorrow on the next RLC video, but I'll be out tonight if you're subscribed to the news site for updates. Anyway, talk soon. Bye.